It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Nashville Soccer Club kicks off the 2023 MLS season at Geodis Park Saturday against NYCFC. It is a 3:30 kickoff blackout game. The team will be wearing the Johnny Cash-inspired Man in Black uniforms. On the hardwood, number 11 Tennessee is at home on Saturday. Vols have lost 5 of the last 7. They host South Carolina with a 5 p.m. tip-off. Catch the Vol Network coverage right here on The Zone. And Vanderbilt playing host to Florida at Memorial Gym. That is a 5 p.m. tip-off. The Nashville Predators will continue their West Coast trip on Sunday, taking on the Arizona Coyotes. Last night was a 6-2 win over the San Jose Sharks. The Preds currently 5 points back of that final playoff spot in the Western Conference. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and you're home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and McKee, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Friday. It's Friday. Woo! Right there. Just, man, the song says it all. Woo!
Man, I can't believe it's here. Oh, crap.
What's your favorite thing about Friday?
Oh, it's the weekend already started. What do you mean? Boy, it gives me a boost of energy. But it's even a cloudy day. I mean, we don't even need no hype music for this, man. We need some hype music for Fridays.
What do you got, Lucas?
What do you got, man? While I'm getting my earplugs.
I want to know more about what got you fired up before games. Sometimes you give us insight, like some Nas. I don't know if you were listening to KC and the Sunshine Band before
the
games.
Carpenters.
I know you were as a kid.
The Carpenters.
I'm on the top of the world looking.
What else? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't have my earpiece in, so I did not hear any of what Lucas said. I'm sorry.
I want to know more
I was
about.
too busy being a ding dong and running my mouth.
I want to know more about what got you hyped up before games, because you give us some insight, like you told us about Nas.
Man. Well, as most of you guys know, I didn't really need a song. I'm being real honest. What did I say? I had calming, relaxing music on game day. And then when I'd come out the tunnel and go through the starting lineup, or I'm out there high-fiving the guys coming out on offense or special teams, then I start to buzz. Because what I found out is I would get too exhausted. Getting too hyped too soon. And the exhaustion part I had to learn, and that happened in preseason. So I'm a quick learner, so I had to tell it back because I knew I had to play at a certain level to compete at that high level each and every game. And I saw it in the film after somebody tried to actually take me out. Hurt me. And I played totally different after that. So it showed me what I could be. So I played at a different intensity level like no other. So I said, well, going into games, I had to make sure that I can get to that level every game. And that's why you see the inconsistencies week in and week out. Some guys can't reach that level every week, whether it's because of injuries or just don't have the energy, nicked up, what have you, or they're just not, mentally into it. So those things happen. So you have to really be all into it, especially with a guy like me who was, I would say I was a really good, solid NFL player who wanted to play at another level and prove that each and every week because of my makeup of who I was, and I had to defy the odds on getting to the league, getting drafted. Nobody respect me, nobody know who I am, and then try to make a name for myself, and then just kind of continue on with that. So, yeah, I really didn't need music. It was just, to be honest, I really didn't. So it didn't matter what I was listening to before the game. I really didn't listen to any hype music. It was all calming music.
Okay, my mission today will be to track down some of Blaine's calming pregame.
No,
playlist.
but that won't give me hype for the. See, it's two different deals. I need hype music for the radio.
We'll switch it up.
Yeah, because see, me getting super hype for the radio doesn't do anything. But once again, somebody said I was yelling on air, so I had to stop yelling. But now I hear people yelling all the time on air. So I don't. So that's what happens when you listen to hype music. So now I am trying to mold it into the radio, version of that. I don't know. I didn't think I was. I thought I was being passionate.
I think bring the passion, dude. It's our show. Be as passionate as you want to.
Yeah, so I had to mold it into the correct deal, so it could be perceived as something else, I guess. So
The hardest thing I think for me would have been the average game time is noon on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to wait till like Sunday night or all the way till Monday and Monday night, like having to manage,
Yeah.
that would, it's like sitting.
I had to learn that too, Mickey, to be honest.
Like
You learn that.
That'd be tough.
Oh, it really was. The first game, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
So the next time we played on a Monday night, which was your dream. Oh, I'm going to play on Monday night. Dun, 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 do, 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 do. I remember just growing up hearing that every day, watching it all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. You saw I got hyped. I was yelling. Yeah. So
No, it's
no, that
passion.
was passion.
It's not yelling. It's passion.
Right. That was passion. So I got exhausted the first time. And then the next time I learned, okay, let's watch some movies. Don't watch any more film because watch something that I like watching to put me out of pocket, out of mind. Don't think about football. Because if not, my mind was 24/7. That's who I was as a player. And don't think about football. Relax. Go watch a movie, something else, get your mind off of football, and then wait till you start riding over to the stadium to get ready. Because you do have all day. You know what I would do? When I got exhausted, I go down there and watch more film. The day of the game. I'm going to watch more film. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I can catch another little tip. Maybe something can make a play in the game that I, just didn't see. I'm going to go back 10 years ago when this coordinator was a coordinator of the Denver Broncos, and now we're playing Green Bay Packers, and he's here. Maybe he ran something in. Maybe it was a trick play. See, my mind would just wander just like that on game day. And I would get mad at my teammates because they wasn't thinking just like me. Where are you at? Why did you come down to the meeting room, man? We ain't got nothing to do. What you doing in your room, man? You be focused on football, man. Don't you want that contract? See, I'd play in their mind. Guess what? I want to win. I want to get somewhere. You want to get somewhere too, right? Yeah. Well, okay then. Well, let's go down and make sure we're on the same page. It went from 10 people to like 2 people. Nah, just kidding. No, we had some serious guys, but just never to that level. We had a handful of us, but that was about it. So, at different positions. So it's just, it's like that still today, I'm sure. Every locker room is so different. Everybody thinks everybody knows everybody. Everybody's real tight. You get a handful of guys that you're really cool with, and then you keep it moving and you social with everybody else.
Okay, Lucas is super interested in what music was for you. I have to know, what movies were you watching then on a Monday in, Baltimore?
Oh, it didn't even matter. Whatever was available, to be
Okay.
honest. It could have been drama, suspense, thriller. It didn't really matter. No, I wasn't watching, sci-fi or any, something like,
No rom-coms? You ever watch When Harry
Nah.
Met Sally or anything?
I would watch some funny things on that
Okay.
note, though. Yeah, I would try to. Yeah, I would. So yeah, so anything to help me relax. Get into that. Oh yeah, my body feel like it could move everywhere, like that. When Tom Brady was talking about your body, your brain. What did he say? Like it could move. Your body was. Remember, he said your body must be. Oh man, what was the term he used? What did I say? Pliable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Water?
Yeah, like water.
Like water?
Yeah, he said, yeah. That's where I was trying to get to, because when you play loose and you're confident and you're prepared, the sky's the limit. There was no stopping any type of athlete when he's in that kind of position. It just is not. Their confidence is through the roof. And then when I'm starting to get to year 4 or 5, now all of a sudden there's nothing I've never hadn't seen now. There's nothing I haven't seen. There's nothing that can stop me on this game day. Nothing. So I was my goal. I never reached it. Was to play a perfect game, knowing in reality I could never play a perfect game. We get our grade. I mess up 1 play. I mess up 2 play. Matter of fact, they didn't throw to my guy. I just didn't do what I was supposed to do. And I'm perturbed. I want to get it. I want to see if I can. And knowing it's impossible. So that's where the mindset was at that time. And the work that I put in, and I put in just as much work doing this show, just like that.
Do you remember, like, the best game in your mind that you ever played? Like, you thought, I may not have gotten perfect, but I was close on this day. Was there ever one where you walked off the field thinking, son of a gun, I almost did it?
Watch this. I'm about to get you. A game that I thought I didn't play a perfect game, I did. I mean, as close as I can. I didn't play a perfect game.
Right.
But I got as close as possible. Indianapolis Colts in the playoffs.
I was at that game.
I can say this. That run we had to the Super Bowl in the playoffs were some of the best games of my career. All the way to the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl for me, it was just, well, so it's just not winning. This is just but yeah, up to that. So those 3 payoff games, Bills, Colts, Jaguars, go turn on the tape. Watch B Bizzle for Shizzle. Watch the Hitman. Boy, I had some games. And I always used to say this all the time. Big time players play big in big time games. Woo. And that was when I was probably, a year 6, 7? Now I'm thinking I'm invincible. That's where your mind is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of weird. We didn't even plan to talk about this, but yeah. So, the Colts game. Had a couple PBUs, tackle for losses, played mind games with the great Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks ever. Whenever I thought I could trick him, man, I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I really did. And it happened in game. Had no intention to do it because he was telling me, basically looking at me, telling me that I know what you're doing. So I had to change my whole game up in game. I started lining up on the line. I got deep middle. He's like, oh, every time Blaine line up on the line, he coming. Nope, not coming. And then he checked to a play going to the other side. Oop, that safety is rolling down, coming. You just come unblocked there, Mark Rob. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, that was at home.
So it wasn't about me just making plays. It was about also playing the mind games. That was not at home. It was in the Hoosier Dome.
Well, I mean, no, at your home.
Oh, yeah, it was in my
front
hometown.
of all your people in the place you played for high school state championships, right?
Yes, and I think that's why I played so well in that game. I can give that as an excuse. I felt loose and I felt at home. I really did. I remember running around the field early, and I run into Father Kelly, the late Father Kelly. He was the preacher or the pastor for the Colts. He was also my religion teacher in high school. Mm-hmm. And he says, man, Woody, did you ever think you'd reach it to this high? And I laughed. I said, y'all don't have no idea what they dealing with. He just busted out laughing because we were so close there at the school. It's a small, at that time it was a small private school. We only had 100 people graduated, my class. And to think that I was going to make it to the league at that point in time when I was in high school was a no-brainer, no way, no how. I didn't even have a Division I offer. So, yeah, so that was hilarious. So to see how that just evolved and how it's so hard to predict what a high school player can actually become is probably the hardest job. It's even harder than scouting, college players coming out to go pro. I mean, so the projection of, where a player is in their development, and I played since I was 6 years old. So, yeah, to think that I was going to even make pro was kind of way out there. And I never even talked about making pro, to be honest, to nobody. Nobody, ever. I wasn't that kind of guy. I was just a guy, prove it, I'll show you. That's it. Obviously, I didn't do enough in high school anyway. Yeah, so that was pretty good. I think that's why I played well, just because I felt at home, relaxed. Really relaxed. I mean, I was doing things I had never done. My helmet came half undone, and then I kind of knocked it off and said, I'm the best. And looked dead at the camera. I knew the camera was right there. How did I know that I had no idea. It said, I'm the best.
Oh, we got to find this.
Oh, yeah, you can find it. Oh, yeah, it's out there.
Oh, okay.
And I'm laughing and smiling with my helmet off. That's how relaxed I was. I'm the best. And theoretically, I thought I was.
Well, I'd say that's a fair statement because worked out pretty well during that playoff run. A lot of games during that run.
Yeah, everybody remembers Eddie George's long run. Looking up.
I was in the bathroom when that happened.
You was in the bathroom at the stadium?
Yes.
You were in Indianapolis?
I went to a Predators game either the night or 2 nights before with my friend Kay and my friend Kyle. And she comes walking up to us and says, I just bought 3 tickets to the playoff game in Indy from this guy outside. That's when there used to be, remember, scalpers everywhere. Said he was selling tickets. He had 3 tickets to the Colts game. We're going. So we loaded up and we went to that game, dude. We stopped somewhere in Indiana on the way back in, I hope my friend Kyle was listening.
No, I don't know.
We stopped at a Shoney's and all the time.
Elizabethtown. No, I'm just kidding.
It was, I don't know if we'd gotten into Kentucky if we were still in Indiana, but it was all Titans fans, and everybody in there started just cheering and going crazy.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of Titans fans there.
Yeah, we were loud.
Yeah, they were loud.
It was loud at times when you guys needed it to be loud. That's what's so crazy.
Well, it was loud too because I had a lot of Blaine Bishop tickets. I bought like 80. Yeah. Payroll deduct.
Well, that check had to have hurt the next week. Like, 80's a lot. That's a lot of tickets.
Yeah. Anybody who knew me, they were there. I had to call one of my friends though to get the tickets though, because he was from Indy, high school teammate, Mr. John Crisp, who was big in real estate. And I said, "Hey man, who's all wanting to come?" He was like, "Hey man, we got like 30 guys." I was like, "Oh, everybody's coming." Yep, get them all tickets. I got it. Wow. I mean, count my family, everybody else.
It's a heck of a day, man. For a lot of people,
that was a fun time.
That was a fun freaking time. That whole man. It's what everybody's been trying to get back to ever since.
Yeah, and hopefully we will. Now with all these cuts and everything else, the ceilings, it can't go nothing but up now, right?
Well, let's hope.
For the Titans.
Tennessee Vols basketball back in action. Baseball's in action. Tony Vitello doesn't have a beard anymore. I don't know if Ben McKee has a beard, but he knows about all this stuff. And we will talk to Ben McKee next on Blaine and Mickey. What in the world?
This is what he think I'm listening to.
I'm trying to track down his. I'm gonna figure this out.
Boy,
Trial and error.
this is an error.
He said things that calm him down.
Oh, man.
This is very
We
calming.
can hear you, Lucas. Well, I couldn't.
Well, this ought to have Ben McKee nice and calm.
Yeah, to be honest, it was not this calming, but somewhere around here, though. Just a notch up.
So you're not listening to this before trying to tackle Fred Taylor.
No, I said before the game. But that's not counting running out of the tunnel because I said I was naturally a get hype guy. So I'm listening to relax. And you know how, just think about this. You hear all the stories about McNair, right? What did he used to do before the games?
Take a nap.
So is that relaxing or is that getting hyped?
It's very relaxing.
See? So I would try to relax, calm down, sit in my locker, stretch a little bit. I'm not going to take no nap. That ain't what's going to happen. My mind is running 50 miles a minute. I'm going through the game in my head already during that time. So that's why you try to calm down. You don't want your heart beating real fast for nothing in the locker room.
Let's bring in the very calm Ben McKee, who joins us now. We're trying to figure out Blaine's music before games. He said he was so naturally hyped, he wasn't listening to like super hypey music. So
it was calming music.
So Enya, you think would that get you ready for a big game there, Ben? If you cracked open your Enya CD?
No, absolutely not. I've got to listen to some music that's going to fire me up and get me going. But maybe I'm too hyped up at the start of the game, and maybe I need to go with his music choice instead.
I don't know about that.
You think Tony Vitello was listening to Enya when he shaved off his beard?
Oh man, he lost his
he
power.
might have been. He might have been. He joked afterwards. I guess it was Tuesday after Tennessee beat Alabama A&M. I joked with him about it and told him that his black eye that he had didn't look that bad with a beard, and he said that he needed to get rid of the beard because of that slow start in Arizona over the weekend. Needed to switch up the vibe and switch up the juju. So that's why you saw Tony Vitello shave off that beard. But he might have been listening to that music. You can never know with Tony Vitello. That's the one thing we do know.
Well, you never know with Ron Slay. He's all in our Zone TV chat saying that's one of his favorites. He loves Enya. He did listen to that before games. So Big Slay and his headband.
And he was talking about a guy that played hype now.
He was
Energizer
a
Bunny
machine.
there out there, boy. He was getting me hype watching him back in the day.
If Ron Slay says it, then I mean it's absolute gospel. I mean you need to take it in and run with it. There's no need for me to say anything, and maybe Ron needs to slide on over to Thompson Bowling on Saturday and Tuesday night and be the DJ before the game to get the guys going.
Well, I'm sure
He's back in shape too, man.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I think he can give a couple runs, man. Give him 5-10 minutes.
Put up a couple threes, attacked the rim a couple times. Hey, one loss to a good Texas A&M team at their place. If you just put that in a vacuum and said, boy, they surprised everybody this year. Doggone it, they got us down there. One loss in a vacuum to them, not a big deal. But the big picture, that just being the latest loss in the big picture, kind of has some people shook right now.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, you've lost 5 of 7, and this is a basketball team that is too talented to lose 5 of 7, in my opinion, even with Julian Phillips and Josiah Jordan-James being banged up. And I think what's so frustrating about it is obviously they've been inconsistent, but the losses have come to inferior teams that, in my opinion, Tennessee had no business losing to. It's one thing, obviously Tennessee did beat Alabama, but if Tennessee and Alabama comes down to the wire and Alabama makes one more play or hits a buzzer beater or something along those lines, that's one way to lose a basketball game. But and look, I think Vanderbilt is a solid basketball team. I think Missouri is a solid basketball team. But to lose to inferior teams that Tennessee is definitely better than and has the potential to be better than is what is most frustrating. Tennessee has no business losing to Florida on the road the way that it did, or Vanderbilt and Missouri the way that it did as well. And Kentucky obviously has a ton of talent, an NCAA tournament team. They're probably not as bad as we thought that they would be at the beginning of the season, but I still think this Tennessee team is better than Kentucky. And I don't know that it's necessarily a bad matchup for Tennessee, but to me the issue was they didn't show up with the right mentality. I thought that in that first game in Thompson Bowling, I thought Tennessee was reading the press clippings about how bad Kentucky is and kind of took its foot off the gas when they jumped out to an 8-0 lead. And then going up there to Lexington on Saturday, I was kind of surprised that they weren't more ready to play or that they didn't have more energy, given the fact that they knew Kentucky was going to be desperate because they're trying to make the NCAA tournament. And it's a road game at Rupp Arena, your arch rival in basketball. So I didn't think that they had the necessary mentality or quite enough energy in those two games in particular. So to lose those type of games from top to bottom, I think has been what has been most disappointing. Because, again, like you just said, A&M's a good basketball team, tough environment, on the road. They're red hot. You're kind of banged up. There's nothing wrong with necessarily losing that particular game. It's just more so how they lost and continuing to not execute within the final minute of basketball games. And it's just a long list of inconsistencies at this point that have quite a few people frustrated.
The one and only Ben McKee, our guest at Ben McKee14 on Twitter, at GoVols247. You can read his work there.
Well, Ben, I'm sure a combination of a lot of things have put them in this situation, but where would you lean more to where the blame should go, whether it's not making shots, turning the ball over, coaching, injuries to players? What would you lean towards more of the issue in this, this loss of, this run of losses, I guess?
Right. I mean, there's certainly several different things that you can pinpoint. Obviously, the offense is the biggest issue with this basketball team, and that makes you ask the question, why have they been so inefficient or inconsistent on offense this season? And of late, I think a big reason is Zakai Ziegler has been struggling. And I don't say that to put it all on Zakai, because it is not at all on Zakai. They've had inconsistent post play all season long. I think there's some questions about having shooters on this roster that have contributed to struggles and made them easier to defend. Zakai is really, I'd say Santi too, really the only two guys that can get past the defender, can really get to the rim and create on their own. So I don't mean to put it all on Zakai when I say that. What I mean is that you can typically tell whether Tennessee is going to win or lose that day based off of how Zakai Ziegler plays within the first couple of minutes, because he's that important. He is that good of a player, and of late he's struggled to shoot the basketball, and I wonder if the amount of minutes that he has played up until this point in the season is starting to catch up to him, because he's doing uncharacteristic things on the floor, and he's missing shots that he typically makes. He's making turnovers, committing turnovers that he doesn't typically commit, and it seems like he is pressing, and he's not going to admit that he's fatigued or whatnot, and he's in great shape. But because he's really the only true point guard that's ready on this roster, he's had to play so much and carry so much of the load. I wonder if he's kind of pressing a little bit, and that's what is contributing to those mistakes. So if they can get Zakai going again, I think that bodes well for this offense and on defense as well. Been battling foul trouble of late, but they do need to get Josiah Jordan-James back and Julian Phillips. So those are two really key players to Tennessee's success, and I think the inconsistencies at the posts have frustrated them at times and been an issue. One day it's Tobe Awaka that's stepping up and ready to play, and then the next game it's Jonas Adu, the next game it's Olivier Kamwa. You just don't really know what you're going to get night in and night out from the post, and I think that's contributed to the struggles as well.
Man, we're on with Ben McKee with Go Vols 247. Mickey?
I guess there's really never – you mentioned Zakai Ziegler. There's never been a good time for anybody to be in foul trouble, but Cal basically said after the Kentucky game, we basically went out of our way to try to get him in foul trouble.
Right, because he is that important. And also Rick just got done talking to the media about this, that he's so aggressive and the team is so aggressive. That's kind of in their nature. That's kind of who they want to be on defense. But there's a fine line with being aggressive on the defensive end and also Rick saying committing dumb fouls. And I think that's kind of the line that they are trying to walk and figure out. And Zakai's been a little too aggressive of late, picking up fouls on the other end of the court when the other team just inbounds the basketball. It's those type of fouls that get him in foul trouble, and then he's got to sit on the bench. And because he really is the only true point guard on the team that's ready to play, it really puts Tennessee in a bind. So that has contributed as well. But they're trying to, again, walk that fine line of being aggressive but not be too aggressive. And I think that's what Cal was referencing. Obviously, if you're the opponent, you want to get Zakai in foul trouble because he means so much to Tennessee. But also, you can kind of see of late that Zakai has been overly aggressive, and quite frankly, it's been easy to get him in foul trouble.
Rick said after the A&M game, this team will find a way. Do you believe that, or do you think this season just kind of continues to flame out and has a really poor ending?
I'm going to take the cop-out answer and say we don't know yet.
Fair enough. No, that's fair enough. I mean, who knows?
I feel what you're getting at, though, and I don't trust this team going into March right now.
Okay.
I mean, they're too inconsistent to trust. And at some point, whether you have the tools to piece it together or not, like you are what your body of work says you are. And right now, Tennessee's body of work says that they're a very inconsistent basketball team. And I would throw in, it also says that they can't execute late in games. And that does not bode well when you're going to be playing close games in March with your season on the line. So I don't necessarily trust this team at the moment going into March, to be quite honest with you. But you do see that they have the pieces, and I think you're being blind to the fact that they could absolutely go on a run if need be. They remind me of the Conzo team that made it to the Sweet 16, a roster that was very talented. It had experience. You expected more of them in the regular season than they actually put together. Probably should have won more games in the regular season, and fans were very frustrated with that team going into postseason. But they had the pieces to piece it together, and some luck fell on their side in the tournament, and all of a sudden they're in the Sweet 16, and they probably should have gone to the Elite Eight if it weren't for that late call that many think was the wrong call against Michigan. So this team kind of reminds me of that team, to where it's been a frustrating regular season, but you still recognize that they have the pieces and time, although not a lot of time left. They do still have time to get it going into March, and it would not be all that surprising to see them end up in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, because they have the talent and they have the experience.
Hanging with Ben McKee, go Vols 247. He's at Ben McKee 14 on Twitter.
Well, they're at home, right, against South Carolina. So I'm assuming then that that bodes well for them. But what do we expect? I mean, what do you expect to see here?
I would be very, very surprised if South Carolina were to beat Tennessee, but I would also be surprised if South Carolina is able to hang around. I think it would be disappointing, quite frankly, if it's not a blowout. Maybe not from start to finish, but the final score should fairly indicate the difference in the two teams. And it feels weird to say that, as South Carolina is coming off of going to overtime with number 2 Alabama. But obviously there's been some other circumstances surrounding the Alabama basketball team that I think contributed to them being on the road and starting slow and not playing well. But I went to Columbia, South Carolina last month, or the beginning of January, and saw this South Carolina team play this Tennessee team, and it resulted in a 40-point loss. So it would be pretty disappointing, in my opinion, if Tennessee allowed them to stick around and make a game out of it. South Carolina is just not a good basketball team. So this should be a get-right game, in my opinion, especially with Rick saying today that Josiah Jordan-James and Julian Phillips, he thinks they are going to play, and they're getting better, and they practiced yesterday. They're about to practice right now. It's just a matter of kind of how much they do in practice and how much they feel as they're warming up tomorrow. It's a game to kind of get those guys right and back in the flow of things as you head into a big week next week, which is the final week of the regular season, and they're two tough games. Arkansas coming to town on Tuesday night. You go to Auburn on Saturday. Those are two teams that maybe have struggled at times this year, but they still have plenty of talent. And if Tennessee doesn't show up ready to play, they'll certainly beat Tennessee. And then it's SEC tournament time after next week. So that's kind of how I view the South Carolina game. It's a game that Tennessee needs to use to get right as it heads into the most important time of the year.
Well, get right. Well, then that leads us to, does seeding really matter for the NCAA tournament for Tennessee? And I'm asking that question because, as you mentioned, really guard play and Ziegler, to me, he's a starter, does everything there, whether he's turning the ball over or having a consistent play throughout the game. But because I'm nervous that they get a seed where they play a low seed team and they're a high seed, and then they have a bad shooting night and can get beat by a lower seed team, or if they're right in the middle and they play another quality team and they seem to play just better and shoot better, maybe not as defensively shutting down, but they shoot the ball better. So is it concerning where they're seated?
It is. It's something. It's definitely something that you're going to pay attention to, right? But I think, and it kind of goes hand in hand. But what are the matchups that Tennessee is going to have with its seeding? Who are the teams that are going to be kind of in Tennessee's part of the bracket? Who is that first game against? And at this point, Tennessee seems to have fallen back from a potential 1 seed and high 2 seed to a 3 or a 4 seed. And if you are a 3 or a 4 seed, then you're going to be in that range where everybody loves to pick the trendy upset. And it may not be a household name, but it's going to be a team that was probably one of the best in its conference and is going to give Tennessee everything it can handle. So seeding certainly matters from that standpoint. But we've also seen Tennessee get a high seed last year, get a 2 seed, and then all of a sudden they have to play a very talented Michigan team in the second round that underperformed all year. So it's all going to come down to matchups at the end of the day. But obviously your seeding is going to determine which matchups you end up with.
You never want excuses, but I know with Phillips and Triple J out, kind of messes up the rotation. Now some guys become the starters, and then now you don't have the bench to rotate guys in behind those guys. So how much do you think that affects their chemistry and why they're not playing so well? And I know sometimes, these guys were out there a little bit limited before they got hurt, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think it's affected it too much. I mean, obviously you want Julian and Josiah out there, but from a chemistry standpoint, I don't know that that's really made a difference because you're still playing kind of a key core of guys with Ziegler and Vescovy and
but guys'
Jemai
roles are
Mashack.
changing now, right? Or at least a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you've seen Jemai Mashack take on a much larger
yes.
role.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Of late. Yes, he's been tremendous. And Rick was asked today how his role changes with Josiah and Julian coming back, and he said flat out that it doesn't change. Like he's still gonna play kind of the role that he is playing. So I think it's only good news that Tennessee can return Josiah Jordan-James and Julian Phillips, and then add in this not revamped Jemai Mashack, but a Jemai Mashack that has taken a big step forward the last couple of weeks. I think that only bolsters Tennessee, but I don't think the chemistry has been thrown off at all just because there's still a ton of veterans on this team, even with those two being out.
There you have it, Ben McKee.
Hey, Ben, fantastic stuff. I saw your little dude just turned 7 months old. That guy's getting big, that big
congrats.
rascal, man. So happy 7-month day to your little fella.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that. He eats a ton. We're trying to build 5-star recruits over here.
Well,
I hear that.
Hey, good luck with that. Hey, Ben, thank you for the time, man. At Ben McKee 14, Go Vols 247. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yes,
Take care.
sir.
You
It's
too.
getting wild in the background there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Them 7 months old, man, they get to riling up.
That rascal is getting wild. All right. When we come back, Blaine sent me a question this morning to put out as a poll question. And I thought, boy, that's going to have people in their feels. People are in their feels about a question we put on Blaine and Mickey's Twitter and involves many of your favorite player and that player's future. We'll tell you what it is next. Blaine and McKee 1045 The Zone. So this morning I get a message this was yesterday evening. This is what I get sent.
Oh, well, it was kind of.
Would you trade Big Jeff in the 11th pick for the first pick of the draft? Or would you trade the King and Big Jeff? And one thing you pointed out.
To get the number one pick.
To get the number one pick.
To get your quarterback.
And the Bears actually need, like you said, they need a running back. So
they need a running back.
That'd be a nice little salty nugget to throw in there. So I thought, ooh. So then I thought, here's what I'll put out there. Because I just want to get people like truly emotional.
Into their feelings, right?
Is there any Titans trade scenario you would be okay with that includes Derrick Henry? And I found a cool picture of Derrick Henry on my phone with his red gloves, and I put that on there.
And the red sleeves.
Yes, and it looks good. He looks like Derrick Henry. Man, this
he
thing.
Looks like because it is Derrick Henry.
There are so many responses to this.
What are they saying? Oh, man, I can't imagine how many people going to call in then.
I mean, here's nope. One guy said 2 first, 3 seconds. That ain't going to happen. And it goes on from there. He was being silly. No. I mean, no. Why do we even got to trade him? I would take the cap hit, whatever it is, and keep building around him until we win. But then a bunch of people are basically saying, here's Robbie. Yeah, and even from a purely PR standpoint, it has a less than 0 chance of happening. Might as well hold the franchise. If that's really fold the franchise, he said, if that's a decision point right now. Here's what a bunch of people are saying, though. I don't want it to happen. I'm paraphrasing, but there's like 50 responses to this. I'm paraphrasing. People are saying, I don't want it to happen, but I understand it's a business. Not everybody. It's a bunch more no's or not under, over my dead body. But there are people who are saying, like, if that's just what's got to happen business-wise, I understand. And I know Buck and Lucas, I was getting in the card. You guys are bringing up the most emotional trades in Titans history. And brought it, and this is, you guys are like in the 5th grade or something when happened. They traded Steve McNair. I mean, it traded Steve McNair.
That's why I said everything that I say, I've seen, I witnessed it. Yeah, I saw it. I mean, I'm in the locker room with these, like, dang, man, that could really, oh, man, that's, oh, wow, dang, this, oh, man, stuff like that. And so when I first got in the league, eye-opener, Warren Moon traded my rookie year. I say, you talking about somebody got super serious after that. We talking about a rookie. Everything was serious for me after that. I was walking there with a briefcase. No, I'm all about business now. This is a business. No more fun in the sun. No more like it's Little League and I just play football because I love football. If you don't approach it that way, you will not be successful because it stands for not for long. And so you better be prepared and can't get your emotions involved. This is a business. And that's where I think A.J. Brown found out it's a business and he got his emotions involved. And then it became, you need to separate. That's why I say players in the pros have to be careful how much you tell coaches. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about outside of football, you let them into your personal life. I would recommend don't do it. Another thing I wouldn't recommend is recruiting players on social media. I would not do that. Because you don't know. You can recruit that guy in there and you can be there 1 year and you're gone the next. Then how you think that player feel? No different than when you're recruiting in college. So I would recruit behind the scenes, but not publicly.
Wouldn't
not
tweet
like
out at him or anything?
No, I don't
Send
need
him
to
a text message.
I don't need to do all that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't need to do that unless it was, my homeboy from college or something. Everybody knew we was tight.
You and Bernie Parmalee, 2 Ball State guys just out there making it in the world.
There wasn't too many dudes like that on the Ball State there, so I couldn't do that. But, maybe I would have tweeted somebody else or something.
There had been Twitter at that time. Here we go. Emmett says in the Zone TV chat, public relations nightmare. Lonzo says, I would burn this city to the ground if they traded Big Jeff. JR says, Henry, sure, I would trade. Big Jeff is off limits. And people are responding to this all over the place. You want to respond? Is there anything you would be comfortable with? Any scenario? Because Blaine brought up trading for number 1.
Because the PR part of it, and I get it, I'm all in on that. That is a very true statement with the King Henry, one of the best backs in not only Titans history, just in the NFL, rushing for 2,000 yards in a season. You have to get that quarterback. Then that becomes your new face of the organization. So yeah, that definitely would play a part in that if you're going to do anything remotely thinking about something like that. Yeah.
Blaine, that's a great point. Think about how many teams the quarterback is the focal point in his picture. Not here.
Yeah.
People like Tannehill, but it's
Right.
Big Jeff and Byard, and the King is the King.
The king. Yeah. The king is.
That's the big three.
Right, he's the king. He's the face. So yeah. So this is a tough call because they would have to. I would probably say 2 1s and a player to move up to 1. I think I would start really considering that if I'm the Titans. Mm-hmm.
Who you want, Bryce Young?
Um,
Steph Curry?
I just
Or is it just for whomever they would want? Just get to number
whoever
one.
they want it.
Right.
I don't know enough. All of them have some quirks to them. I really like Bryce Young, and I know he's small and he's tiny, but he is magical. I've said that from the beginning. He is a magician, and he took hits from the SEC. I know that's not the pros, but it is as close as you can get. And it's just something about him. It's just different. But I don't know if I would go all in like that. I would have to buy into we're changing our offense.
Mm-hmm.
I have to know that we are. We are not going to be run the darkness with our big back anymore. We're going to be a more spread it out, let him wing it. Then now he has a chance to be a little more successful in that he can get rid of the ball quick. He can see where the pressure is coming from. Naturally, you're going to get your offensive line fixed. So it's a tough one. I don't. Only guy I love is Caleb Williams. He can't come out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a tough call there. And, everybody's looking at Will Levis, durability, C.J. Stroud. I'm starting to like Stroud a little bit more. More and more, I watch him. Going back and watching video of him. Levis just throws too many interceptions, so I don't know if that's a product of receivers or his coaching or just him. And can it be fixed? I'm not a quarterback guru, so or pressing, trying to make plays, they're not there. But he has the size and the athleticism and the arm. I get why they're projecting him there. I would say as far as durability, size, and upside, as far as what they look like in frame, Levis, and it's going to make people laugh. I'm just telling you how the NFL thinks, Anthony Richardson. Because they project higher in 2 to 3 years. Bryce Young, I think they would say, as long as he can stay healthy,
Right.
He'll be a really good quarterback. I think C.J. Stroud, is a pocket passer, and with weapons around him and protection, he'll be a solid quarterback as well. So I think that's why they do that, and that's why the NFL rolls the dice and gambles, and especially quarterback, because if they develop and now they're doing it 24/7 year round and not going to class and things interrupted, their development will skyrocket, just as Josh Allen, who was a big arm guy who could run, but then he was missing his target. They said, it was because he was receivers. He was inaccurate. He's only 57. You can go run down his stats from college, but when he got pros, he was somewhat similar to that his first year, and then his development, Dayball was there, who's the head coach now of the Giants, he's kind of being the quarterback guru to me to a certain extent. And he got Allen back on track and with Allen's work and whoever he was also working with in the offseason. So when you start saying that, you go, well, where does Levis and Richardson, who athletically with their size could be off the charts? So, do you take a risk with those guys?
Let's pick this up on the other side. You want to weigh in. Is there anything you would trade Derrick Henry for? Would it be a crack at the number one quarterback? Would it be to clear some salary? Would it be you want another first-round pick? Is there anything you would be comfortable trading him for? Phone lines open, 615-737-1045.
It is 2:03. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Coming up tomorrow in Music City, Nashville Soccer Club kicks off the 2023 MLS season at Geodis Park against New York City FC. It is a 3:30 kickoff, a blackout game, NSC wearing the Johnny Cash-inspired Man in Black uniforms. And on the hardwood, Tennessee, the number 11 Vols, are also at home hosting South Carolina with a 5 p.m. tip-off. You can catch the Vol Network coverage right here on The Zone. Vanderbilt playing host to Florida at Memorial Gym. That is a 5 p.m. tip-off. Nashville Predators are on the West Coast. They will take on the Arizona Coyotes on Sunday. Coming off a win in San Jose last night, the Preds are 5 points back of a playoff spot in the West. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and McKee, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Friday. We're just blowing your Friday up here with this question.
Oh, my.
Is there anything, any scenario that you would see yourself making a trade for Derrick Henry? Any scenario? Now, lots of people responded on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. You can follow us there. People are responding in the Zone TV chat. There seems to be a mix of people saying no, zero circumstances, not for anything. And then maybe the other end of the spectrum is, I would hate it, but I get it. If it's truly a rebuild and you need money and his cap hit's high and I watched the Super Bowl.
It's a business.
None of those running backs made any money, and, the Eagles and the Chiefs both made it there.
You can only do it for a franchise quarterback. That's it.
And then there's people in the middle who are like, maybe I need some convincing to understand this. But a lot of people have called in on the phone. Let's try to take some of these phone calls. Any scenario you could see yourself trading for Derrick Henry. And Blaine brought up the ultimate one. Wes on Broadway, one of the Broadway TN sports guys, worked out the trade value on the Jimmy Johnson chart.
Yeah, he was helping us ding-dongs.
Of all you would have, there's Jimmy Johnson. Yes, that Jimmy Johnson, not the NASCAR racer, but the NFL coach, came up with a value chart like what every pick is worth. So if you're going to trade this pick for this pick, you have to meet the value of the higher of the lower pick. I guess it's lower, not higher.
So equating what trades are worth and what value they have.
So this thing is nuts. Like what all the Titans would have to give up to go from 11 to 1. So Blaine was thinking, like, what does the King get you in that deal? I mean,
I'm just trying to
you're
add
truly
a player.
trying to get there, the face of the franchise, the best running back in the NFL, what would that be worth to a Bears team that could really use a running back? So that's got people in their feelings. People have called in. Let's take some of these phone calls. Josh, checking in from Franklin, Kentucky. First up in the 2 o'clock hour on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Josh, any way that you would trade Derrick Henry?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I got to say something. You talk about a different spectrum. I'm on a wholly different spectrum altogether. But, 2 seasons ago, Henry was out for most of the year. We ended up in the championship game. And Titans are willing to give Tannehill away for a six-pack, But Tannehill goes out last season, and we can't win one of the last few games just to go into the playoffs. But here's my thing. The bottom line comes down to the fact that nobody is going to run behind an offensive line that the Titans have right now. So, to me, my main thing, if they lost Henry and went and got them a great offensive line, that'd be a great trade-off as far as I'm concerned. Because the main problem for the Titans is, they can't keep a quarterback in there because he's getting hurt. Henry didn't do that great last year as far as yards per attempt because he wasn't getting any blocking. So, for me, as someone who likes Derrick Henry, I think for him he might be better off going to another team where he can actually get a little bit of a run off the line of scrimmage before he's getting hit in the backfield,
Josh, thank you for the phone call. Now, Derrick Henry was a very prominent fixture when the Titans went to the AFC Championship game. It was getting the number 1 seed like they did a couple years ago when he missed half the season. So I understood the point he was trying to make. They managed to have some success while he was out during the regular season.
Well, make sure everybody hears this correctly. If you gave Derrick Henry, the king, truth serum about last season, he says, if you got to play behind that offensive line, do you want to be here? I guarantee you he would say no.
Truth serum.
Truth serum. But see, no player is going to say that.
Right.
He knows daggone well that was going to get him. And there's no way he was going to have longevity like he wants to have, even though they gave him all the carries, because he was getting hit too much in the backfield. I mean, way too much. I mean, it was, let alone, don't even talk about protecting quarterback.
What?
So here's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, we would have meetings after the season, different players, and we would sit down and be like, hey, man, we're not where we need to be. Well, what's the issue? Offense, defensive guy, and guys say, hey, man, if we're going to keep going on this road, then I need to be somewhere else. See, those are the conversations players are having. And so I'm wondering if the current group is doing the same thing. And I'm talking about star-level players. Because that's why they won't say the word rebuild. If you're redoing the whole offensive line, sorry, that's a rebuild. You can say rebuilding the offensive line, you're rebuilding the team. This team is built with the offensive line. What are you talking about? This is a run-oriented team. This is Mike Vrabel's team. This is what he wants to do. Old school, say mercy. That is what you're doing in the NFL. And he was accomplishing. And as soon as those guys start breaking down, no more mercy. Now the offensive line was saying mercy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he don't want to burn back. And then Tannehill, too, by the way. He'd be like, man, hey, if I'm Tannehill, this is the difference. I would have said, hey, man, we got to find help for old Mr. Dennis Daly, or we need to put somebody else out there. After about 5 games, it would have got to a point like, look, I know he's giving his best, but that ain't helping me survive. So he need help, or we need to try and find something else. And I think they waited way too long, especially somebody like Vrabel. I believe not. I think he is the most impatient person. And for him to do that, I think there somewhat was intent to make a point that things aren't right. Mm-hmm. And I didn't pick this dude, and I didn't want this dude, and I didn't have a say in getting this dude because it made no sense. None. Vrabel is too smart for that. And he did it all season. No way, no how. You can say, they had no other option. They could have, hey, you don't like Dylan Radins? You wouldn't play him? We'll put him out there. Let's see what we got. Because it couldn't have got any worse. Sorry, Charlie. Let's put him out there. I would have had him practice all week. This is where you're going to be. You playing. Emergency, twice daily. That Dennis Daly. Yeah. That was inexcusable. I could not believe that. That was almost on the Wizard Hunt level when they had some dude off the street blocking J.J. Watt. Like, what? And left whoever the quarterback. Who was the quarterback at that time?
Mettenberger.
Oh, I felt so bad for him.
Was it Svitek was one of the guys? There were
somebody.
They would do several of those.
I was like, oh
J.J.
my God.
Watt was essentially yelling at the sidelines like, "Can you send somebody out here to get in my way?"
Oh, it was man, this dude wouldn't have started at ball safe. I was like, yeah. So I was stunned. I know he may have thought he had no other option, but guess what? It couldn't have got any worse. Put that dude over there. Let's see what we got. So everybody could see that he was horrible or he wasn't. So, man, that one there, man, that was baffling.
Squeeze in one more. Wes in Portland on the subject of Derrick Henry and a possible trade. Hello, Wes. Thank you for calling.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing today?
Good.
We're doing great, man. It's Friday.
Excellent. Yes, sir. Indeed it is. So a couple of thoughts. Number one, hot take, kind of like the last caller. We were able to survive a couple games without Derrick Henry. We weren't able to survive games without Ryan Tannehill. I think people unfairly shade Ryan Tannehill, but that's neither here nor there. As far as trading the King, here's what I would say. Mm-hmm. I would say the King is a very good running back, the best the Titans have had in a very long time. Mm-hmm. I don't think we can afford to just give him up for anything. I really, really dislike the idea of giving him up for draft picks because for every Trevor Lawrence, for every Justin Herbert, there's a Johnny Manziel, There's a,
True.
Isaiah Wilson. We trade up and we can get someone who's not going to do anything. So if we're going to trade the king, and that's a big if, it needs to be for someone who's proven. It needs to be for someone, I'm not saying we go out and get A.J. Brown. Like, someone like A.J. Brown who's like, hey, this is someone who's performing. They're doing well. We know what we're getting. We're not getting a question mark. So it definitely needs to be that, not we'll trade up for a number 3 draft pick, and then we'll get, just someone who's going to be out of the league in 3 years. It needs to be someone proven. And honestly, the way that Chig was playing last year, the way that Ryan Tannehill was putting up numbers despite the O-line he was behind, I think if we get a little bit of O-line help and maybe a good receiver in the draft this year, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do pretty good in the AFC South. I don't see that this is a busted, broken team. I still see reason for optimism.
There you go, Wes. I like optimism on a Friday.
I definitely like everything he was saying. He made me actually think of something else. And this is crazy. I don't know if you could pull it off, though. Basically, he was talking about getting ready to, possibly, if that became the issue, you're trading a king and the first round pick and swapping with the number 1 pick, right? I would. Tannehill's still on the team, so only the king and the pick goes to number 1. Granted, it's going to be worth more than that, I would assume. But if that did happen, I would throw curveballs out there. It would be a real tough call for me if I traded to number 1 and I'm keeping Tannehill, as the caller just mentioned, king gone. Now it's the big debate for me. Am I taking my number 1 tackle? Watch this. Or am I taking Willie Anderson Jr.? These are the 2 things that impact teams outside of the quarterback, is protecting the quarterback and rushing the quarterback. Pass rusher versus offensive tackle. And guess what? You're trading with that pick. The Bears thinking they getting one of those dudes too, by the way. So I don't know how those conversations go. Do they promise them they're not going to take a D lineman? They can't do that. You can't do that. So that would be, naturally you need an offensive tackle. So you probably would lean that way. But in a reason, I know you got to fix your offensive line, but maybe you can do it with a veteran. We don't know what they're going to do in free agency. Free agency is first before the draft.
Sure is.
So we don't know where the offensive line will be. Matter of fact, we don't even know if Ben Jones is actually going to be on the team at that point. So there's a lot of curveballs with the draft, and that's why I say it's the season of lies. But I think you got to start assembling. And remember now, we keep saying Rand, but this is Rand and Vrabel, but it's Rand's first go-round. So we're always leaning towards Rand because is he going to make a splash? First year as the GM. What is going to be his big move?
Let's try to predict that next with Buck Reising. He's going to join us. Maybe he knows what the next cut is for the Titans. We got lots to discuss with Mr. Buck next. Blaine and McKee, 104.5 The Zone. Buck Reising's going to join us in just a second, but we're going to put Cole in East Nashville ahead of Buck in South Nashville.
Because he's cold.
That's right, Cole.
Cold-blooded.
What's going on, man? What do you think about this potential of – would you trade Derrick Henry or would you not trade him for anything?
Okay, so last year I called on you guys' show when we were talking about Ryan Tannehill and the King. I said trade the King. It's not going to be favorable back then, but we could have gotten more than we're going to be able to get for him now. Yes, trade him. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. I want to be optimistic, but we got to be realistic now. We got to be fair to the King. Trade him so he can make something out of the rest of his career. You know, a team that has an offensive line. We have no offensive line. Trade for either draft picks. I was thinking either trade them to Buffalo because we need receivers too. I don't know if we could work something out where we could trade draft picks and the King, get maybe Stephon Diggs and a draft pick. We need an offensive line. It doesn't matter who our running back, wide receiver, or quarterback is if we can't protect the quarterback to throw the ball or hand off the ball. It doesn't matter. We could have Joe Montana, Ricky Waters, and Jerry Rice with the crappy line we have. We'd still be dead last in one of the worst divisions in football. We need to focus on the offensive line, and I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, I think they're going to focus on the offensive line. I think they are.
I think if they pick at 11, surely there's going to be a tackle's name attached to that pick. Surely. Like you keep saying, Blaine, I mean, they're going to have to replace 4 people. I mean, NPR or NPF, NPR is National Public Radio, Nicholas Petit-Frere is the one guy that's for sure going to be back. Because, well, I mean, Daly's a free agent. Buck Reising joins us now. Buck, we had a caller who called in and was saying, look, it doesn't matter what the Titans do or who they trade or what they do. They got to fix the O-line first. And, I mean, what are we looking at? Ben Jones, you think he's the next guy to fall with these Titans dominoes to give them a 4th offensive lineman they're going to have to replace?
Yeah, I mean, I expect Ben is probably not on this team next year, boys, whether it's retirement, release, or otherwise. And, I can't speak to whether he'll be the next domino between him and Bud Dupree because those seem to be the two that these discussions are most ongoing about. But I have to think that the decision about Ben's future comes sooner rather than later. I fully anticipate. I've been preparing like they're going to replace 4 offensive linemen since before this all started. And, Aaron Brewer's still on the roster, but I think a new left guard is as critical as any, not as any other piece on the offensive line, but certainly something they have to look at.
Well, and he's even a restricted free agent, Brewer is. You mentioned Bud Dupree. I think people kind of have conflicting feelings about him. They see a really big number, and they see he's played, 11 games the last couple of years, and I know you've gone through this. He came here with knees, but then he had, hip injuries, and then he had something else. But the Titans need pass rush. I mean, they're at their best, like anybody, when they're getting after the quarterback. Possibility of maybe with him, they say, look, we got to change these numbers somehow. We don't want to lose you, but we got to tinker with this contract.
Yeah, and that's the process that they're working through right now. No, there's no guarantee that they get that situation figured out, and it may ultimately end up in his release anyway. But, they have to find some kind of complementary piece to go with that front 4 because, we all know Jeff's ankle situation where he's breaking down in tears with us in Jacksonville in the locker room afterwards. He's been shooting it up for 8 weeks, and he's clearly not right. Danico Autry fought through his own injuries this year and, was able to make an impact when he got back, but still not enough. And then Harold is, he has had literally a full season to get the ACL corrected, but between Bud Dupree and Taylor Lewan and every other ACL you've seen, it's just not a guarantee that everything's going to be seamless once he hits the field for game action, though he will have the best opportunity of anybody to do so, given that it happened literally the week before week 1 this year. I think that they still have to explore drafting a defensive lineman or edge guy this year anyway, if not a complimentary role piece, an affordable piece in free agency, if that's a possibility that avails itself. Because Danico Autry's 33 too, so it's not just Bud that you're talking about. Danico is in the final year of his deal. Theoretically, if they cut him pre-June 1, they'd save about $7 million. I don't necessarily think that's on the table at this point, but certainly they're replacements for both of those guys if one ends up on the outs versus the other. This roster has holes everywhere because it's not just the starters. It's not just 7 starters in all likelihood that they're going to have to replace, boys, and you know this. It's the depth. It's what we saw behind the guys that went down during the course of the last 2 seasons, and it's just flatly insufficient.
Buck Reising, always sufficient on this show, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned salespeople.
Man, but just hearing you say that, Buck, do you think the offensive line and the defensive line can be fixed in one off season?
Oh, God, no. God, no. I mean, even if they draft a rookie right tackle or left tackle with the 11th overall selection, I mean, there's no, that's a solution, but it doesn't necessarily provide the fix, right? We've seen rookie offensive linemen struggle in the NFL, and that's, I mean, I'm not going to assume that this player that they end up bringing in, be it a placeholder veteran or a high draft pick, is going to be able to just roll right off the line and fix all the problems that they're having. Now, I have to assume that anything that they put in there is going to be better than Dennis Daly, respectfully, because that was an atrocity last year. And I say that without any, I'm not trying to be funny or anything like that. He was one of the worst tackles in football in 2022. So, no, I don't think a long-term solution, Blaine, comes this year. It's like when they drafted Taylor and they had to build the offensive line around that as the starting point. They had to bring in veteran free agents like Ben Jones. They had to draft a right tackle and Jack Conklin and make all these things work. It's always a multi-year process when it comes to a unit that involves that many different pieces.
If only Taylor Lewan's ACL would have held up, right? So naturally they let him go with the designation of injured. How does that process work when you're injured? Because let's say he never gets healthy before the season starts. Do they have to give him like some injury settlement or to that extent, even though he was already released?
Now, that is definitely on the table at this point. And the injury designation, because both he and Cunningham had one.
Yes, they did.
Basically, the way that was explained to me is it's just procedural. Like that's could they play today? And if not, are you failing them with a failed injury failed physical designation rather? So that's more about like the time of the release than it is about anything else long term. But I mean, listen, Taylor's health has been a long term concern at this point, and that ACL happening twice in 3 years is something that every NFL team who is interested in his services, and there will be teams who are interested, is going to have to take into consideration before they give this dude any kind of contract.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A Titans legend, stayed healthy, he would have been one of the best, if not the best. What would you say his legacy, is or was, and where would you rank him as an offensive tackle for the Titans in Titans history?
Oh, I mean, in history, I think I had this conversation with Teresa Walker earlier. I don't think you could put him any higher than third. He was regarded as one of the top 5 players at his position when he was right, but it's been so long since then, Blaine. I mean, you have to go back to the start of 2020 before the initial ACL tear when they were playing really high-level football, still coming off that 19 run. I think that with Taylor and his legacy, I think that, he'll always be a Titans fan favorite. I think that the idea that he was at the start of the rebuild, literally a cornerstone as they put together the roster under Rustin Webster that year, and then drafting Marcus Mariota and, moving on from that administration to try and get this thing back up to a place where it's competitive. And honestly, I think he's one of the people that made it fun for Titans fans to get back involved and engaged with their team. He's a big personality. He's always, relished the opportunity to interact with people. He's very, very, available and front-facing. So I think that kind of personality, while it may have rubbed people the wrong way at certain times, I think it ultimately lended Titans fans to get to a place where they had somebody that they could legitimately invest in, that was a nationally recognized player before Derrick Henry kind of took off the way that he did.
No doubt about it. Taylor Lewan is definitely a Titans legend. We're on with Buck Reising from the Buck Reising Show right here on 104.5 The Zone.
Buck, people are big time in their feelings with Derrick Henry. I guess Jeff Darlington did a hit on Get Up, and he did, explosive predictions that might happen. And one was, the Titans would trade Derrick Henry to the Bills. And, people are to the Bills. And so we asked just a generic question today on our Twitter account. Is there any scenario you would be comfortable, with which the Titans would trade Derrick Henry? And it's a whole lot of no's. Do you see a scenario he's not on this team next year?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, anything's on the table at this point with a situation like the Titans are in. And, I'm not actively advocating for it. I don't think it's
right.
If you're asking me what's likely, I don't think it's likely that Derrick Henry's not on this team this year or this coming season. But, if an opportunity presents itself for a team to offload that contract at 29 years old cleanly and with sufficient draft capital that helps you maneuver to a place where, I don't know, are you getting involved in the quarterback draft at that point? I don't think that Derrick Henry is going to yield enough that would help propel you into a place where you can get a crack legitimately at one of these top two quarterbacks, which is really the only situation where I would be comfortable with them moving on from Ryan Tannehill. But yeah, I think you have to be self-aware at this time of year, especially given where this team is right now. There is absolutely a situation where Derrick Henry isn't on the Titans in 2023.
Big Jeff, I would imagine he is. Where do you see his contract per year landing? Because I would think this has to get solved sooner than later. Diana Rossini tweeted about it, yesterday?
Yeah, she was tweeting that, given the amount, I think she was responding to an Adam Schefter tweet about the amount of cap space that they cleared and saying that Jeff should be their number one priority moving forward as far as extensions and contracts with their own guys are concerned. And she's 1,000% correct, as we all locally here understand. I think the floor for Jeff needs to be $25 million annually, and how they structure that. There's a variety of different ways that they can make that work. He's got the thing that everybody wants right now, which is the ability to pressure from the interior. He is a versatile player. He's an available player. He has certainly earned any contract that will come his way at this point. He's not Aaron Donald. He doesn't have the resume. Aaron Donald is making $30 million a year on that extension that the Rams ultimately ended up giving him as he was, quote unquote, contemplating retirement. Just as I'm sure his head coach was contemplating retirement to try and leverage more money out of a situation where Amazon was clearly trying to get into the Sean McVay game. So I think that Jeff's contract has to be baseline $25 million a year, and how they structure that from a cap hit standpoint to make it more friendly on a longer term extension. That's incumbent upon Ben Marino and Rand Carthon to figure out.
Buck Reising, our guest of the Buck Reising Show, and many other things, A to Z Sports, you name it.
Oh, well, I was just going to add to that. Where is Big Jeff? You talked about, he was getting shot up in his ankle. Where is his ankle's health at this point in time?
From what I understand, and I know Jimmy Wyatt talked to him at the Pro Bowl, he sounds like he's in good health. He was, he had it repaired through
so he had
the
surgery
offseason at this point. That was my understanding.
Okay.
And so for Jeff to be able to get that right and have that time off, it sounds like everything has been pretty routine since then.
Now you do know when they go through negotiations, you just said he should get at the floor $25 million. Well, Big Jeff, your production went down. He was like, "Well, my ankle." No, you were on the field. Your production went down because you didn't play as well, and neither did the team. We need you to play that level. See, so this is what happens behind the scenes, in that players get their emotions involved in their feelings. So I'm just letting you know how it all works, and that's how it works. Whether they tell you that or not, that is what's done behind the scenes. So I'm interested to see if he gets $25 million, because if you can get a franchise quarterback, or would you play your D tackle 25 or more? You said that's the floor. I'm interested to see if they're going to kind of make that decision, because they ruffled at that with A.J. Brown, and he proved to be worthy of that. I wouldn't have gave it to him either, but obviously $25 million, and he looked like one of the best top 5 receivers in the NFL.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you, Blaine. But, I think as big a reason as A.J. was for the administration change in the front office, I think the future of Jeff Simmons has just as much to do with that. I think that he has, I'm not going to say it's unique leverage, because it's not the first time that, very, very talented players have gotten general managers who kind of, tiptoe around the contract negotiations. It's not the first time that somebody like that has gotten fired in a circumstance like that. But I have to imagine that when Rand Carthon is sitting in those meetings with Amy Adams-Strunk and the rest of the Titans brass that was a part of that committee that she put together for their general manager search, I have to imagine that a Jeff Simmons scenario was presented to Rand, and I, not knowing what those conversations were like directly, I'm just speculating at this point.
Right.
I have to imagine that Rand Carthon, it was emphasized to Rand Carthon, hey, we've kind of already been through this. We don't want to go through it again. Don't make us go through this again.
Right. What quarterback do you like in the draft?
Well, I love Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is an alien. Honestly, Greg Fosell and I were talking about this earlier in the week, and just the Tennessee tape this year from alone with the throws that he made to keep them in that game, and how he operates a pro style system already. And Bill O'Brien, one of the hardest coaches I know he's back in the NFL, obviously college football last year, but one of the hardest coaches to play under is comfortable letting him change things at the line of scrimmage and set protections and things like that. He's so much far and away better than the rest of the quarterbacks in this draft that it's almost enough to make me overlook the idea that he's physically slight, 5'11", and I mean, if he's actually 195, I would be very impressed.
And I think like Kyler Murray. And one more question I'm going to add is the reason why I asked you that is because I wanted to go King, Big Jeff, first round pick, the 11th, to get the number 1 pick to Chicago, and you get to pick Bryce Young. Would you take the deal? King, Jeff, and 11.
No, Jeff being in there is the deal breaker to me. You can't give away the thing that everybody wants in the NFL right now beyond Patrick Mahomes level quarterback play. Like his skill set is the thing that people are paying right now, and I would be shocked if Mike Vrabel's already had that done once to him with AJ. I don't think that's happening again, Blade. I really don't.
No, I know. I was just throwing out a scenario. I just wanted to see.
Oh, sure.
Fun.
Buck, enjoy your trip up to the Combine on the way out. Anybody specifically that you are looking forward to most seeing at the Combine?
Ooh.
I won't say specifically a player, but just a position group. I want to learn more, or as much as I can, about these wide receivers. We got a smaller sample size in Mobile, and obviously this is not the most prolific wide receiver class. But this is a team with great need, both at wide receiver, tight end, and theoretically a running back with pass-catching ability because Dontrell Hilliard's an unrestricted free agent. So I think the receiver group is the place that I'm going to put the most emphasis on because I know, not that I know everything about the offensive linemen that we're going to be looking at, but I've talked a lot about tackles so far, and that's kind of the place that I'd like to shift more of my attention to as we get further into this thing.
Well, good luck with your shift, Buck. At Buck Reising, follow him there on Twitter and catch all of his latest broadcasts. He does a whole lot of it every week. Bucko, and travel safe up to Indy, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys.
Yes,
appreciate it, bud.
The one and only Buck Reising. When we come back, it's the one and only Call Your Shot. You got a shot. Phone line's open, 615-737-1045. You like the Vols against South Carolina. Maybe you want to call an XFL shot, whatever it is. Lucas says soccer. Lucas knows it's a big soccer match in Nashville tomorrow, right, Lucas? Maybe you want to call a shot for Nashville SC. It's all open to you, 615-737-1045. Blaine and McKee 104.5 The Zone. Happy Friday to you. Got big plans. Lucas going to a soccer game. I know that. He's going to go watch the Nashville SC this weekend.
Yeah.
Blaine's going to try to drink a bunch of Gatorade and get his fluids back after he had to run in with a bad Brussels sprout earlier this week, or maybe more than one. How deep did you get into that bowl of Brussels sprouts before you thought something ain't right?
You know, when I start something, I finish it.
Oh, you finished it.
Oh, it's finished. No,
you.
it finished me. It finished me, man. Well, let me tell you, leftover Brussels sprouts is not a good deal. I recommend don't do that.
Just say no, people.
Yeah. Just I didn't want it to go to waste. It was to go. I mean, not to go, leftover to go, and I had to get it done. And they said, nope, I'm gonna get you.
Oh, they got you all right. And the hitman got hit by Brussels sprouts. Something
And
so tiny as Brussels sprouts it took you out, man.
The hit. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Don't look at the size.
No, they packed a big punch.
Woo-wee. Boy, I mean a big one.
Lonzo says in the Zone TV chat, and his avatar is Mississippi State. He said, I'm calling my shot. Men's UT basketball turning around this weekend.
Oh, against South Carolina. I don't know.
South Carolina.
Lucas, what do you think? You follow more than anybody. I mean, South Carolina took Alabama to overtime, right? So how good is this team? And it's going to be in Thompson Bowling. I just feel like they always play different there. A little home cooking may help them out, too.
I think if that's Tennessee playing South Carolina and Columbia on Wednesday and not Alabama,
they lose.
Tennessee's losing that game.
Yeah.
Tennessee ain't got somebody to score 41 points.
Nah.
I mean, that's what it took. It took Brandon Miller scoring over half of Alabama's point total.
Do you think he's affecting the team? Because his teammates didn't look the same to me. Like they didn't play like they know. It just looked that way. I could be totally off on that, but it just looked that way.
Yeah, he definitely was playing with a different edge on Wednesday, but usually they are more complete. Like they don't need Brandon Miller to put up 30-40.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an outlier. There are plenty of games where Alabama has put out complete performances where he's got 17-18. But Tennessee's got to take care of business against South Carolina. I know they looked good. Michi Johnson shooting lights out from three. The South Carolina guard, I did the math. Over the last 6 games, he's 45% from three. Oh. And he shoots it. I mean, he'll shoot 7-8 a game. He's just lights out. And Tennessee's got the number 1 3-point defense in the country. So strength on strength a little bit there. But Tennessee, you have to take care of business against a team that's just been bottom dwelling in the SEC all year, and they're well coached. They're playing for Lamont Paris over there, but you got to win on your home floor Saturday, especially after what you did at their place, beating them by 40+ a few weeks ago.
Ooh, so they're gonna be a little revenge. Oh, this may be a good one. I'm gonna go. This is my shot then. The get right game. UT men's basketball. They get it right. They get it right. Get it tight in Thompson Bowling. Yeah, they have no choice. Yeah, I want to see if they come out tight. They better not come out tight and slow. I'm calling a shot. I think they're gonna come out loose. They're gonna get their 2 guys back. Triple J and Phillips.
They should.
It sounded like
it's trending that way.
McKee was on
leaning
with us
towards
earlier.
that way.
Yeah,
More so,
But it's been leaning that way for 2 weeks. Those guys have been day to
and
day.
they dressed and sat on the bench.
Right. Those guys have been day-to-day game time decisions for 3 or 4 games now.
Did you see how Barnes answered that question? Like, will they be available? He went to the training staff, like the players, like they were working hard, but like he has no idea. Maybe I don't know. I didn't like the way he answered that.
Barnes's response, where it's like,
yeah,
what was the quote from him? Well, it's on them when they want to come back. It's basically what he said. It's on them when they're going to come back. Huh?
I don't know. Like, okay, just think about some really good players on your team, starters naturally, and you say, well, it's on them, and they're injured. So how are you responding to that question? I'm not responding that way. I'm definitely not. I can tell you that.
And well, you've talked about, taking care of your body and rehabbing and that a lot of that onus being on the player. I don't know if Rick Barnes is kind of leaning in that direction.
See, you're confusing pro and college.
Yeah.
See, well, this is college and it's pro. You're not a pro. You're not getting paid checks to do something. They get paid NIL to do, but it's a little different. So it's a little different deal to me. To me, you kind of lightly tread on there because naturally, you can't say certain things about players, but you say, hey, man, they're hitting the rehab hard. Hopefully we'll get them back sooner than later. See, to me, that's a positive feel from it. I don't feel positive when I heard his response.
Yeah.
See that? See how I didn't. So just imagine how a player is taking that, and I'm going to take it even further. This is my only crux with Barnes. They can talk about him winning in the tournament and this and that. It always indirectly is not him, but it's them. Like he always say, well, they didn't execute. We've heard that before. Well, we couldn't hit shots, which is on the players. But to me, when you lose and you're dealing with college players, you kind of want to soften the blow. When you win, you kind of want to be a little stiffer and say, yeah, well, you know, we did well, but we can do better. But still in a positive manner. I mean, man, I just feel like sometimes I think over time, mentally, he drains. The players are listening now with social media much more than they ever knew before. I just think sometimes that can wear on some of these players. I don't know. You never got to call your shot. I didn't know we was about to be here now. My bad.
Vols by 2. I think it's going to be just another rock fight, nail biter. I think the Vols are going to win by 2.
By 2.
Yeah. I think Ziegler will stay out of foul trouble, and he hits a layup late
I just
to
want
win
him to stop turning the ball over. Man, he could be a frustrating player to coach. Good Lord.
He doesn't turn the ball over, and he doesn't get in foul trouble. They could win this thing big.
They win him by 12 or more.
12 or more. Yeah. All right. 3HL is coming on, and Ron Slay's going to score 12 or more in the show today, probably.
But in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.